Okay. Sweet. So it looks like I am now live. And yeah, hello and welcome. I am going to be playing a tournament today, which will be mostly a best of one format until the end on the new DLC patch, trying out the new units. Now, usually with tournaments, it will take a little bit of time for them to actually begin. So in the meantime, I will just be hanging back, sitting with whoever comes in to watch, and then after that, I'll be diving into some games. But if you are watching on the VOD, you can skip ahead to the timestamps below, and if they're not there, I should be putting them up in probably a few minutes after this video ends. So all that out of the way, you can go on and take a look at the bracket. It's let's see here. I actually haven't taken a huge look at it yet, so let's just quickly go over together. It's currently not set, but there are some familiar names: Pugnobon, Ice Power, Swarve, Flying Taco. Definitely lots of scary names, and given that it is a best of one, there's a very good chance that we could just get knocked out round one. Optimus Fine looking to skip ahead already. Wonderful. All you gotta do is knock your head on the table hard enough and you might get there. It's the I'm feeling lucky video skipping. Oh boy, in the first map it's Troll Country too. Oh dear. Well, that's gonna be a pretty heavy rush map. Now, the way this tournament actually works for the picks and bans, since it is only one round, it is going to be you pick 3 factions, your opponent bans one, and you pick between the last 2. That is after your opponent goes for their faction. And yeah, that's basically it. That is basically it. You try too many times. Oh no, Optimus. Oh no. Flying Taco always rolls you. He rolls everyone. So no need to really, no need to feel worried on that front. Okay. Cool. And it looks like the tournament organizer wants us to also be submitting replays, which I definitely shall be doing. Now, real quick, I'll also put a link up to their Twitch channel in case you guys are interested in checking the actual tournament casting itself. But for the live play, this is the place to look. And I think soon enough I should have the games actually set and ready to go. That's why your name is Optimus Pain. Oh no. Are you implying you also mistyped it from too many hits? Pick 2. No bans is the best one. Oh, like sort of like Viking system? That one always seems pretty interesting, but I haven't played around with it enough to really have a firm opinion on it. Oh, also important to note, my internet has been dying quite a bit recently. So this stream may or may not have to close and reopen many times, but it hasn't crashed in a bit. So fingers crossed we are not screwed over. Is this the chariot meta? Indeed it is. But only for greenskins and the beastmen. Their chariots will glide through units like it's nothing. It's pretty terrifying, if I do say so myself, but I think we should be able to get by. Here we go. Here's a bit of a bigger bracket for you guys. Actually, many people signed up last second, so looks like we got some competition, guys. The Twitch channel is offline. That means I'm the only one streaming this tournament. Yes. So much, I don't know, coverage. Oh boy. Now, I am mildly sleep deprived, so as usual, we have the scapegoat ready to go if we do lose round 1. Of course, I do have like a week's worth more practice than other people in the tournament. So you would expect me to do well, but surprisingly enough, I'm actually not that good at Beastmen. It turns out I have mostly neglected my Beastmen training for the past forever, and now is the time to finally learn them. As is tradition with how I play, I will oftentimes just learn whichever factions I think are the best. Nothing wrong with that per se, but it does run you into a few problems. Also, hey Butcherbird, we got a mod in chat. Watch what you type. More often than not, Butcherbird is actually allowing comments to go through rather than banning them, because sometimes before I would have a bot that was too aggressive. The Chariots release with bug hit registration. I think they did, from the looks of it. A few people have tested. Some people say that it isn't there, but others say that it is. So I would say Chariots are still bugged, but it's not the worst thing in the world. We'll make do, and if you know, it's always risky to try and fix something last minute. If CA tried to fix a Chariot bug, who knows? It could have introduced many others, so I don't blame them very hard for not patching it up right away. Now, here we go. The tournament is starting in very soon. I am ready to go, and fingers crossed we don't get Flying Taco. Anything but Flying Taco, really. And preferably, I wouldn't want to buy either, since it means we'll be sitting around here for probably a while. And that would not be too great, would it? Although, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Usually I get to answer a few questions. Some preliminary questions. Ogre Kingdoms is my favorite faction for Warhammer 3, if they do add it, which is seeming more and more likely by the day. Where's the Rules Council? Can they ban Chariots until the hotfix comes? Well, technically they can do anything, but we're currently looking into it. In about a day's time, I would expect the new rule set to come out for the DLC, but you guys will have to sit tight for a tiny bit longer while the finishing touches get done on that front. Flying tacos are dangerous. I think we can all agree on that. The Oracle is insane. It is, but its range is pretty short, so it's not the hardest thing to avoid in battle. And I think just walking away is going to be the best counter. From what you've heard with spell casting, Butcherbird, you're saying the AoEs have extra area. They don't. So against single entities, AoE spells will be the same. But against larger units, if it clips but a single model, it will hit everything. So with Flock of Doom, you can just hit the corner of a unit and it will hit all the units. Same with Soul Stealer. And that obviously is a buff to those spells, but we'll see if it actually impacts the meta. I'm on the fence right now about that. Yes, Troglodons, they do a lot of damage with its range attack. It's also very much like a Carnosaur, but without the anti-large. Pretty scary unit, but very expensive. Oh, Butcherbird. Vicious. Vicious, he deleted his own message. Bibblington is saying these coming days are going to be interesting, seeing what the new meta will be. Yeah, especially with the loss of greenskins. They used to be top dog, but now it seems like they may very well get bullied around by dwarf gyrocopters. Oh, and look at that. We do have a buy, guys. All right, everyone, hop off of stream. Come back in 15 minutes when we get our match. It's gonna be Papa Palpatine and a name that I don't recognize. But it is just best of one, so this tournament should go by a little bit faster than usual. But for now, we wait. For now, we wait, and the map is going to be Wyvern Lake. I'm actually not sure about that map. Is that a... What? Is that a small map? I'll have to see. Let's see, it costs more than a dragon. Are you talking about the Troglodon? I think it's slightly cheaper at 1700. It's very expensive. And hey, look, I can show all the units now, so we can actually talk about them. Take a look at the Troglodon. almost 900 damage per 10 seconds. That means that over the course of a minute, it could burn down a troglodyte, I guess. But of course, its move and shoot capabilities are much stronger. Let's see, why not ban it? They want to ban Beastman Chariots. Let's see here. I'm already lost on that conversation. But yes, Chariots are still pretty crazy. Marathi is spammable, and it means we may see a new age of Dark Elf cheese and possibly some counters there. But surely we have to find some hard counter to Marathi, right? Right, guys? Come on, we got the whole community at hand. And it is, the build is, it feels very counterable. But who knows? Maybe it's OP. Skink Oracles. Oh, yeah, Skink Oracles are expensive. They are so expensive. Even if you take one without all of the spells, it costs 2,100. Like, instead of a Skink Oracle, you could take like almost 4 chameleon skinks. Almost. You know, if you take this guy with spells, right? Yeah, he's very comparable to 4 chameleon skinks. And when you think about it this way, 4 chameleon skinks could very well be a lot scarier, especially since with all of their ranged attacks, I think they actually do more damage. Oracle kitted was about 22,500. I'm assuming you're taking 3 spells then. Cross between a Carnosaur and a Scourge Runner. I guess with its ranged attack. It's more like a Carnosaur and an Ancient Stegodon, I would say. That is true, it's very much like a Terrorgeist. Take a look at this. And it's not like it has breath attacks either, which also do a lot of damage. What I'm really excited for is a new Age of Lizardmen Kite, though. Look at these salamanders. They seem insanely cheap compared to how expensive they were before. And like, if you take a look at this, you know, 2 salamanders do as much damage as the Skink Oracle. If you just take a look at the raw numbers, and you can take 2 of them. Amazing. Of course, the single entity monster cap is going to be holding you back, but some speculation. And honestly, right now, it's going to be speculation for a while. As long as we're aware of that, then there shouldn't be any problems. And oh, it's this map. I haven't played on this one in forever. I think it was a My Son HW tournament. That was the last one I played this on. I think it was Coast vs High Elves. What do you think people are going to do against dinos nowadays? I think they're going to do the same thing that they always did. If you take a look at the Skink Oracle, or, you know, the Troglodon compared to a Carnosaur, it's not like you can take both of them at the same time. Because of the single entity monster cap, it is extremely restricting. And if you take any monster that isn't a fighter, like the Ancient Salamander, you're going to have a weaker single entity monster blob. And yes, Deadly Bunnies more or less sums it up in 2 words: shoot them. that's your answer right there. And yeah, the Troglodon has less HP than the Carnosaur too. And the Carnosaur is not especially hard to take down if you can pin it down. So I think people will be just fine. Yes, play Tomb Kings indeed. Ushapti Great Bows. Very scary against the forces of the Lizardmen. Of course, they do have this new unit, Chameleon Stalkers, but they will still die to Chariots if you're not careful. But yes, I think Tomb Kings is a good option. The question is Vampire Coast a good option? And for that, we'll have to wait and see. If we get any far into this tournament, I expect I will get at least a few Vampire Coast games. My faction lineup is going to be Coast, Dwarves, Lizardmen, banning the High Elves, banning the Beastmen. Sadly, I think Beastmen, I don't know how to play against them yet, and I don't know how to play them. So today we might not get a lot of action there. But on the side of everything else, I think we should get some pretty good content today. great into Lizardmen, Wood Elves, and some other top tiers. Yeah, Tomb Kings is they're a really nice faction for some soft counters. They got just something about their roster makes them real good. Something about it that makes Wood Elves and Lizardmen weep every night. But I'm not sure what exactly. Maybe it's Skeleton Horsemen. Stalkers don't seem great into Tomb Kings. You were playing them with a friend and they never got any more than 300 value. It's really interesting. Stalkers consistently get 300 gold value. That's their thing because they're not great in melee. But yeah, Stalkers they don't seem like a crazy good unit, I would say. I might even take Chameleon Skinks over them in a lot of situations, except for the fact that they are actually fairly good at sniping out single entities. Take a quick look at their damage value. Right here, missile strength 75. They hit like an Ungor raid or volley, plus the explosion damage of miners with blasting charges. It is 2 units in 1, but it still isn't, you know, for the price of 700 gold, you could have, you know, Source Warriors, almost. So I don't think it's broken by any means, unless they get a lot cheaper. Maybe they should have more ammo. Oh, well, I don't know, Cowboy. That's pretty wild, giving these guys more ammunition. It would make them better, though, for sure. That we can agree on. We'll wait a few days to see how people feel about all these new units. Like before, if we look at pump wagons, people thought they would be good. And I think most of you guys don't even know they exist. They blast a spearman and then die to chariots. Essentially, if they can find good single entities, that's usually where they pay for themselves. Do you think Coast will ever get an update? And do ogres find a useful role in Coast? In multiplayer, I don't think we'll have ogres very often. And as some of you know, Vampire Coast already has ogres. Where are they at? Here we go. Animated Hulks. If we compare them to ogres, animated Hulks have a very comparable stat line with just a tiny bit more HP and of course undead goodness to keep them in the fight. But yeah, you know, animated Hulks are very close to ogres. And they are barely run because turns out archers counter Coast and ogres at the same time. So I think in tournaments where they're allowed, we won't see them. And as to whether I think Coast will ever get an update, probably not. Coast is a fairly complete faction in my mind, but I do hope that they get some balance patches just to see them a little bit more in the meta. Although they did have their time to shine for a good like half year before they got nerfed. So far, you've only found ogres are good into high elves, or are you talking about chameleon stalkers? I imagine you mean stalkers, and they generally do well against elves and even Skaven sometimes, but I'm not sure about that yet. Their best use though for sure is going up against cavalry, I would say, as long as it's not dragon princes. Yeah, stalkers, yeah. Please comment about frenzy changes. Ah yes, the glorious frenzy changes. Let's go ahead and hop on over to Skaven, since Skaven actually does have quite a bit of frenzy. Although not an insane amount, but let's take a look at Plague Monk's frenzy. You might see this and think it's a buff, because guess what? Armor piercing weapon damage got a damage increase because of frenzy from 0 to 10%. Base weapon damage went down, but the armor piercing is so good. +2 melee attack. It would seem like frenzy got handled the same way as poison nerfs. But this time CA did rebalance all of the units accordingly, removing 2 melee attack on all units with frenzy, or increasing their price if they couldn't. The AP damage of the units were also reduced to accommodate, and generally that means it's a flat nerf to all units with frenzy. The actual difference in the nerfs is roughly equivalent to a single chevron, which equates for this Plague Monk to about 32 gold. Now, it's important to note chevrons are not usually cost efficient, so it's not exactly the most accurate description of things. But overall, I would say it's a very minor nerf to frenzy units, unless you take full builds worth of them, in which case it might be a little bit worse. But yeah, extra AP. Frenzy changes hurt a dying Skaven playstyle. Well, I would argue it's already dead, Deadly Bunnies. Who goes Frenzy Skaven? I have never heard of that build before. I guess the Rat Ogres are slightly worse, but nevertheless, I don't think many games are going to be won and lost because of Frenzy. Take a look at the greenskin changes. They got nerfs across the board, plus they lost a few hundred gold if on their skirmishers. So greenskins, that's a big nerf. And I would say Frenzy is it's much more minor. Same with the poison changes, honestly. I would say it more or less acts exactly the same as it does before. The difference between 15% and 20% is fairly minimal. People still get caught off guard with 4 mutant rats. I wouldn't be surprised. 4 mutant rats? Are you talking about these guys? Wolf rats? Because you can't bring 4 mutant rat ogres. This, my friend, would be illegal, as you can clearly see. Yeah, there we go. Adobe's got it. You can't hurt something that's dead. If they nerfed Depth Guard, I would not shed a single tear. Because, you know, if someone's running mass Depth Guard, you know, maybe they just have it coming or something. That's horrible to say. But obviously it would sort of suck, since it means that, you know, they're not getting looked at some more, but I'm still just as happy to play Skaven as I was before. 2 chiefs plus 2 mutant. I see, so you're talking about something like a Skaven single entity blob. Double chieftains on bone breakers. Didn't bone breakers get a buff? I think they did. Followed by 2 mutant rat ogres. Not bad. You're hitting for, you know, 2000 AP damage every 10 seconds. Pretty good at the low price of not much more expensive than other single entity blobs. Depth Guard Rush works into chaos, kind of. I see. I will need to see that. I personally am a non-believer of the Depth Guard. Even if you go for the Depth Guard polearms and do something like this against Chaos, these guys are going to be eating javelins to the face for most of the game after your guns get run over. But if you find something, if you figure something out, I would be happy to see it work. Depth Guard polearms in a vacuum do trade okay against Chaos Warriors. Like I said, it's not great, but can be a decent off-meta build. Unfortunately, decent off-meta builds is not what people go for most of the time. Unless you are very good at a matchup or very well practiced in a build, most people will go for the most optimal thing. For example, if you take a look at the Dwarf Lords over here, we got Belagar and we got the normal Lord, right? This guy, compared to Belagar, he is significantly worse on multiple fronts, right? This is a decent off-meta pick, but the only reason people would ever take him is because of this melee attack debuff. But no one's gonna run him because Belagar is simply a flat better option. And that's the way with most units, really. People, yeah, they will, if it's even slightly less optimal, it will essentially see no play, unfortunately. But I don't think I don't think it's a feasible task to balance the game to the point where everything is tip top. But I do think most things are playable. All you need is just a little bit of skill, really, and that would more or less balance things out. Like, even before the patch, Beastmen were doing pretty good for themselves despite having a very limited roster, so I think a lot of things are useful. Not to mention Falcon wins with memes, you know, basically every day. Dreadsorians for days, he'll win it. It's like going Slayers into Vampire counts. Ah yes, the dreaded Slayer rush. Feared by all. This is generally what you'll see from a Slayer rush. You know, it's a build. I've been Slayer rushed many times before, but yeah, their main weakness is chaff. But if they do kill all the infantry, of course they will do okay. It's a strange build for sure. Among the dwarf cheeses, I would rate this 6 out of 10. You might see it sometimes, but this isn't gonna be anyone's prime method of cheesing. Unless they're memeing. Or unless I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just very wrong. There's always the opportunity for that. I am by no means full-on professional here. Indeed, nothing's perfect. Like you said earlier, people complain, but CA are better than most overlords. I think so. The fact that you can run every faction in the game, we have mains for all 15 factions, that's not bad. I like to compare it to fighting games, actually. If you look at Super Smash Brothers, you'll have many characters that do not see a lot of play, and that's okay in the end. And I think CA has spoiled us with how well balanced these factions are. It's true, even StarCraft has balance problems. Good old StarCraft, oh my goodness. For those of you that don't know, I am very much so a StarCraft fan. I had played it a while ago, in between my League days and my Warhammer days. That is when I would play tons and tons of StarCraft, reach Masters barely, and then stopped playing because I knew I peaked. And that is the story of my entire StarCraft career. Never played in the tournament, but of course I do enjoy strategy games. And when it comes to balance, I usually treat all this like StarCraft. You analyze factions as a whole instead of individual units. Because if you looked at individual units and their cost effectiveness in StarCraft, every single spellcaster would be OP. Each and every single one of them. Same with the tier 3 units. They'd be OP too. And you know what? All the tier 1 units also, because Marines are busted. Same with Banelings. You know what? What isn't OP? Everything's OP. And that's why I have my mindset in Warhammer, where I'm more or less accepting of everything, as long as the game is fun to play. You assume I was a Terran? I was actually a Protoss. That's right. 0 micro. You can tell because I play dwarves and coast. You should have known, cowboy. You should have known. But yeah. I tried playing Terran. Their macro is very difficult, and I was never good at base layouts. Never really played them a ton. As for Zerg, I just couldn't get used to their army control. All factions very difficult to play. But if you do want to get into StarCraft, I would say Protoss is probably the easiest to pick up out of the 3 of them. Yeah, Protoss for the win indeed. Good stuff. I think Terran said he mained Protoss too in his StarCraft days. He played Zerg. Respectable. Respectable, as you had to deal with every single AoE in the world. Siege tanks and disruptors. But this is a Warhammer stream. Where are the games? They're still on their way, but I can't update the bracket. So let's go ahead and do that. It seems like my opponent continuing to play against my other possible opponent, Papa Palpatine, duking it out with presumably a new player. We'll see who comes out on top. For some history on Papa Palpatine 2, I believe they are mostly a Chaos player. You know, they play Rush factions, Chaos Beastmen, Norska. I believe, although I may be very wrong, because I have a hard time remembering names, let alone player faction preferences. There are simply too many for me to learn at the moment. Maybe that's a lie. I am simply too lazy to learn it all at the moment. And so I do not know for sure. But I think it should be fun. StarCraft for beginners should be called #StarCraft. Amazing, Optimus. Amazing. As always. But there we go. Who are we going up against next, by the way? Either Deadly Bunnies or Ice Power. Yes, Ice Power. Terrifying Lord of Dark Elves. Now, good thing for me, I get to ban out his Dark Elves, which leaves me with some pretty good factions to pick. In this pick ban system, it might be to my advantage being on the top end if I can predict which factions my opponents will be playing. In fact, I think I might even mix in some greenskins in there just to force Ice Power to ban them off. Potentially an option, guys. If you do have any ideas for other pick threes, I'd be happy to hear. Like, against Ice Power, let's see, what does he do? He plays Tomb Kings, he plays some Coast. It's all a little bit scary. I don't know if I really want to go up against that exactly. Perhaps, let's see, I don't know, greenskins followed by... I don't know. Which factions are OP, guys? How do I beat Ice Power? He did beat me 4-0 in a best of 7 the other day. So, in a best of 1, I don't know, my odds, it could be pretty bad. But we'll see. We'll see. Perhaps I can snipe one out from under him. There's a certain tipping point where, you know, the lower, the fewer games that are played, the more your, the more RNG will come into play when it comes to build select. And that could be the advantage I need. But what, if I go greenskins, lizardmen, and something else, maybe wood elves, and then ban the dark elves just because it's Ice Power. I don't know. Or I can leave dark elves open. It seems a bit cruel to ban dark elves, but no guarantee that's what he's going to pick. His control group style is nutty. Interesting. What does he do? Does he start at 10 and work his way down? Or does he skip every other number? He only uses prime numbers with his hotkeys. You don't have to be the best all the time, just one time. I think that's a good way to follow through life. You know, technically, if you follow that with every single task, you will be the best every time. So honestly, I don't see what the problem is. Why everyone isn't the best. He puts infantry in 1. Oh, that's not that weird. I put my lord on 4. Oh, and he doesn't use any other hotkeys? Ah, yes. I see. Now that's some class. That shows that that he can keep track of units without using his hotkeys. Once a battle gets going, though, you usually don't use hotkeys too often unless you forget where your unit is. At least that's sort of how I manage things. So, I think it's fine. Oh, hey, look at that. It looks like the new rule set is gonna be out in like 2 seconds. I can literally update the code to change on to the fruit rules number 2. And you know, I'll put up a big old update in just a second. But right now I need to find the actual version. There we go. There we go. Okay, guys. So, guess what? This turned into a fruit rules stream since we're still waiting for our opponent. And yeah, essentially it's no big changes. It's still banner rules, basically banner rules, except with a few more clarifications on attacking and the forest rules. And not only that, the forest rules has been trimmed down significantly. And the new rules, it is updated for the new DLC, which is absolutely amazing. And I will post a link in chat right now. Boom. There's your rules, guys. Take a look. Take a look. Rage. Rage at all the changes. But yeah, essentially it's more or less the same. The Jabber Scythe is going to be just a 1 of currently because it does have a Mortis Engine effect. And that's more of a creative decision, which is no longer in my wheelhouse. But yeah, they are limited to one because they do technically have a Mortis engine, and that is in line with how Banner Rules has carried things. Of course, it is conditional, so we will be keeping a close eye on that. Aside from that, Forest Rules are much, much simpler now, and I can even say it to you guys right now. You don't have to attack units in the forest. You can't hold a defensive position in a forest. And admins will give you leeway if it's obviously fine with how you're using the forest. The end. That's it. It's so simple now. And any more complicated situations are, well, you know, that's why we have admins. So there we go. That is yeah, that is it. As for the units, they're priced accordingly. Nothing too crazy going on, although I think I believe Chameleon Stalkers count as, yes, they do count as skirmishers. And this is primarily driven by the fact that they are very much like miners, so they are ranged, and the game also classifies them as 360 skirmishers. So there you go. That's basically it. Any other changes? None really to go over. I guess Troglodon. No, yeah, it more or less checks out. So there you go. That is it. What rules does ECL use? Currently Banner. And that is because it started off with Banner with this season, but we'll see how ECL progresses after we move on to the next season. And that's going to be up to Turin. And I can't really say much more than that. But there definitely are quite a few rule sets. Some more simplified than others, which is nice because they're easy to remember and manage. Some that go into specifics more so that players know what they're allowed to do. It's mostly just preference, though. I think we'll get by either way. It more or less just determines what game exactly we're playing. But there we go. Rules, early edition of rules for you guys to look at. And as for the actual proper announcement for the rule change, you guys can check that out on my Discord whenever I have time to post a write-up. And that's it. You like fruit rules? Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. You know, you don't get enough of that, but it's basically Banner rules. In fact, most of it is just stolen from there, just with some changes to things that seemed a bit outdated, and that's about it. And I think Queen Bess and Hell Cannons are no longer single entity monsters because they do not really work in the same way. They are artillery. So, you know, for all you Chaos players that wanted to bring two Hell Cannons and 2 Shaggoths, you can now do so, I think, if I'm remembering the patch notes correctly. The possibilities are endless. I bet you guys didn't even know they counted as single entity monsters. I know I didn't. And we also kept the chariot restriction to 4 because it turns out chariots are looking pretty crazy this patch. Also, Wargors are single entity monsters. We're keeping an eye on them in case they're too OP and we have to ban them. But, you know, they're a new unit. Let's at least give them a test run a bit, or just a tiny bit before we make choices on that front. Still seeing a certain max 1 limit on what? Are you talking Necrofax or something? At Enticity, why is it called fruit? I think it was just a, you know, vicious Satsuma joke that we kept around because it's fairly inconsequential. And hey, look at that, Papa Palpatine. Papa Palpatine's done. That means we get to finally play. And it only took us 40 minutes. 40 minutes for game number 1. Now let's see if we get absolutely run over, but if we do, at least we had a pretty nice initial game here. And a good talk too. You know, I got to introduce the new rule set. All pretty good stuff. All right. So my picks are going to be VP, Dwarves, and Lizardmen, banning the High Elves and Beastmen. No Beastmen today, Papa Palpatine, I'm sorry. But, you'll have to find another option. And I got Dwarves and Lizardmen covered. good convo in the meantime. You always have a solid perspective. Thank you, cowboy. But always remember, never trust everything I say verbatim, because I can be just as wrong as everyone else. And also I can quite confidently say I am biased towards being welcoming of everything, just because not a lot really bothers me when it comes to Warhammer. As long as you keep all those in mind, you'll more or less get useful information out of the words that come out of my mouth. Now, I'm wondering if Papa Palpatine is gonna ban dwarves here, and if we're gonna end up cheesing them. I brought my trusty eraser, I guess. I will be using this as my coin flip of cheesing for the dwarves if I do play them. And that way it will be unpredictable on what build I will actually go. And there we go, Skaven banning VP. I'm gonna go Lizardmen, and the reason is because Lizardmen, they do have some nice, interesting new units that could do very well against Skaven. And this should actually be a fairly fun showcase today, guys, because guess what? Lizardmen may or may not be better against Skaven now. Possibly, but also possibly not. I'm still not entirely sure myself, but I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm sure it'll be totally fine. Okay, ready? Oh wait, yeah, this is actually a match by practice against the legendary Carl Harmon. Although I don't think he played the Skaven match perfectly. I think he was, you know, trying to figure out exactly what I was going to go for. So of course some RNG there plays into things quite a bit. So I'm not sure if this build is 100% foolproof, but I do very much enjoy it. And I think you guys will enjoy it too. It does use new DLC units, who would have guessed? As someone who decided to leave Skaven open for this tournament. Are you new to the community? You haven't seen a lot before, and the only games you've ever played in quick battles were super close. Are you talking to me, Glenn? I presume not. I presume not. You're talking to Cowboy, I see. Because I was like, wait a second, but you're a mod. How do you not know me? Did I just mod someone random? I was freaking out a tiny bit. Probably more than I should have. But yeah, I don't really play a lot of quick battles. I actually haven't seen you, Cowboy. Not in quick battles at the very least. Not sure if I've seen you in tournaments either, but you seem to know what you're talking about at the very least, at least generally. Ooh, oh man, I hope I don't lose this. Imagine counterpicking yourself with Lizardmen against Skaven and just losing outright. How anticlimactic would that be? You know, Lizardmen get a whole new DLC and they lose to exactly what they did before. That would be unfortunate. But I do really like this build. Oh, nice. All right, nice. I'm seeing in chat, apparently Cowboy, a god of quick battle. And I'm definitely not exaggerating in the slightest. Ah, see, left your job. Hopefully it was for the best. As long as that's the case, then I support the decision. But yeah, I do find that the loss of work does significantly improve your Warhammer skills. I could say from first-hand experience, guys. You know, an extra 8 hours every day to do whatever you want. How can that not make you better at Warhammer? You're working 100 hours a week? Jeez, man. Jeez. Oh my gosh. Well, okay, that's intense. Yeah. All right. I do not envy that at all. Man, 100 hours. Because it's usually 40 hours a week. That is more than some people play Warhammer. Madness. Now, a good sign of the tournament mind games going on here. Papa Palpatine does not have a preset build for my lizardmen. And that means he's sort of going off the cuff on how he wants to try beating whatever I might throw at him. And that's very good for me because it means that there's a chance he will be completely let's see, Papa Pal Teen, there we go. There is a chance that he will be completely unprepared for what I bring, and then I will more or less get a free win thanks to my extra experience with the DLC. That's sort of the hope, although it is, of course, a little bit does make things sort of unfairly one-sided for me, but hey, I might have to face Ice Power next, so I'll take what I can get. And if you look at the bracket here, indeed, Ice Power, boom, has advanced to the next round. The person who has advanced the fastest in the tournament so far. A scary threat and ECL participant. Perhaps even a winner when the ECL drops. Is going to be a tough cookie to crack, but if we do lose to him, hey, at least I get a short stream, which should be decent. Whew. All right, so here we go. Going into the actual build that I have here today, guys. It's gonna be a good one. And a reminder, if the stream randomly cuts off, it's because my internet died. And I will probably just end the stream there and forfeit the match if that happens, unfortunately. But if it doesn't crash, I will go into my build as soon as we load in, which should take hopefully less than 300 seconds. Yeah, it's not a bad map. This map's actually fairly good, but it's not one that you see very often. It does have forests on both flanks, potentially some forest shenaniganry that can go on there, but otherwise it's fairly good. Guess what? Double coatl, guys. Two of them beside each other. Now these guys, you might be thinking, they give stealth, why do you need two of them? Or they give stock. The reason is, these guys are not here for stock. They are here because they're basically phoenixes. And as we know, phoenixes are good against Skaven. These guys, they come in with the magic damage. They come in with the weapon strength. And spells to kill storm vermin, what's not to love? Not to mention, they can also protect you from the threat of poison wind mortars. Simply put your flimsy skinks underneath them, and you will be more or less fine. And that will be exactly what I do. Putting these guys on the far flanks to turn the Skaven guns and using these bad boys, a very hard and sticky threat to get rid of, to chase off any Skaven units. They're better than Saurus. Well, they're worse than Saurus in terms of pure fighting, but when it comes to Skaven, you don't need that great fighters. They're mostly here just to break through the Skaven front line. And if they can manage that, I think I'll be okay. Oxyotl is going to be coming in with a basically no kit. And the reason I do this is just to make him very cheap. And he'll just be sniping out lords, essentially. If he does get gooned, I will have a Carnosaur to assist him. And that's basically it. I'll just have a Carnosaur to save him if a Brood Horror or something decides to munch in on him. Not the worst thing in the world. Maybe not the best thing, but I think it should work out. So good luck, have fun. To my opponent, Papa Palpatine, coming in with an army of 1,300. Will I be able to defeat it or will I not? We shall see. Presumably in the next 15 minutes. Oxyotl seems pretty good, but he has line of sight problems, it seems. Really, I haven't run into them. Perhaps on a more hilly map, maybe. And his shots, they do sort of spread out, so you actually have to be a bit close, which does put him into a bit more of a threatening position. So you hope Palpatine doesn't take what you often go for, which is Warp Gale and several Rattling Guns. Well, if he does go for that, I'm hoping that my Skinks will overrun him. No guarantee, but we'll see. We'll see. He can only net down one of my flyers. And there we go. He is ready. And it looks like he went for the Globadier strat, which is actually very good for me. because this build is it's not especially worried about globadiers in general. On the flanks, we do have some wolf rats, the Giselles. They may or may not begin firing. And aha, gutter runners. Let's see how well they do. So the Quaddles will need to dodge as much as they can. Chameleon Skink sort of just moving on up. Oxyotl getting completely sniped out. Just kidding, he can dodge. I just have to make sure that I control well enough. Now, the main goal that I'm going for here is to shut down these range units. If I can do that, I'm feeling fairly good. And taking to the flanks should help me out there. I do have quite a few skinks along these flanks that should be able to hold their own in this game. And the skinks, I believe, should help against the rat ogres, which will be trying to stop my shutting down of the flanks here. Plus I have a Carnosaur, plus I have the forests to take to defend my guys. And I think that should be helping me out quite a bit. So now is the time to actually begin the main engagement. I will be diving all in with every single unit. Moving in Oxyotl to snipe out Tretch. That's a Tretch. That's surprising. I am very surprised to see Tretch. But anyways, we will be diving directly in. Let's go ahead and bring in the Quaddles too. And they will be primarily doing their best to just dive the guns, as they are actually rather good at that. And now we are seeing my skinks. They are surprisingly good at breaking through Skaven front lines. And they will be diving right on in onto the forces of the back line here today. Looks like the Manticore did get a bit pinned down. No, that's my Carnosaur. No, not my Carnosaur. It looks like I may not be able to save it, but perhaps I can by giving it a bit of a leadership buff. Now, the Quaddles have landed, and they are going to just be bouncing around in the Skaven lines. That is essentially their main job here, and I'm looking to get some nice spells off on these Skaven units. As the Quaddles, they are actually spellcasters, and they do fairly well on that front. Looks like the Carnosaur will be going down, though, unfortunately, but it does seem like the Quaddles have successfully shut down the Skaven ranged. This one, on the other hand, not doing as well as it could, but now that my skinks have pushed through, I think I should be in a decent position. A few Poison Wind Globadiers could potentially be a threat too. And we'll see if I can handle those guys. Now this Quaddle needs to save Oxyotl. I definitely don't want him dying to a simple assassin. My skinks are already doing a great job at taking care of the rest of the units here, so I don't really need to worry on that front. Now, for chasing off Skaven units, sometimes it's not really worth it to do so. So I'm actually going to be avoiding that for now, as I definitely don't want to be over chasing here. And mostly just focusing on taking out these ranged Skaven tools that are going to be a bit scary. That's mostly these Giselles, really. Quaddles will be chasing them off, but the Skaven has taken over the balance of power, especially with my caster now down. This could potentially be a very bad game, but let's not forget I do have Oxyotl, and he is going to begin kiting out these Skaven heroes, and the fact that he just has constant poke is going to be pretty troublesome for the Skaven, I would say. And there we go, the assassin already getting fairly low. I do have both Quaddles online and operational, and as a stalling tactic, unfortunately, I will have to waste some time just chasing some units away, essentially. Oxyotl will be poking away at Tretch, going in for that Lord Snipe action. And he should be able to take him out, given enough time. I have the Quaddle too, that should be able to assist also. As long as I chase off these Giselles, I am feeling okay. There we go, these Skaven Slave Spears are being chased off. Let's go ahead and land the Quaddle in these Rat Ogres. Let's see if that does okay. Let's see, are these skinks in combat? Do I have anything in combat? I don't know if I can disengage yet, so I will choose not to. It looks like I have a few units, so let's go ahead and disengage with these Quaddles and get them into a better position. Meanwhile, Oxyotl, he will continue sniping out targets, specifically ogres, rat ogres if you can. And here we go. It looks like these rat ogres are actually pinning down this coatl pretty hard. Let's go ahead and start using some spells here to actually support them. And that should actually pick them back up. Should be able to hopefully rout off these rat ogres, but no guarantee. And it seems like it's not, and I will have to continue trying to disengage with these guys. Come on, coatls, run! Run for your lives! Oh man, that is not good. We do have one coatl already routed. It seems like this game will likely go the way of good old Papa Palpatine today. But not without a fight. I will continue to try and escape with my coatl. Some wolf rats will be coming on in, but with an AoE, I will likely be able to get at least a little bit of damage back onto the forces of the Skaven here. Not to mention these Ixchis triads are fake. They are not real. I don't have to worry about them too much. The assassin still lives though, and I'll have to see if Oxyotl can actually kill them off. As for these skinks on the far side, they're doing okay, but I really need to get out of the forest here, as it is extremely hard to actually get my shots off. So let's go ahead and just get a disengage, bring in the coatl over to this side, and I just need to get more picks with Oxyotl. In fact, I will keep the coatl nearby just for terror, since those guys have already routed, and then group up with my forces here. The assassin, I'll try to poke away at him, but it looks like a summon will be dropping. Will it get Oxyotl though? I think hopefully not. Although it might. Nope, it looks like he will just barely manage to escape. I will turn on fire at will though, and then poke away at the Skaven assassin where I can. Chase off these units and then get a proper fight out in the open. Once the assassin is down, I need to deal with the various lord options. And then after that, I should be fine. So let's go ahead and pull away from the white line. I don't want to be in too defensive of a position here. I believe the current rules say I don't have to attack units in the forest, so I will choose not to. And I will just use Oxyotl to poke away at the rat ogres. Here we go, moving out into the open field to take the final fight. Will I be able to win it? Or will the match be over? We will have to see. There are a few units over here, just some triads that it looks like I can pick off, so I will do that. A real point not to chase them down at this point. And then Oxyotl will be lying in wait, ready to snipe out whichever targets he can. He does still have some very good ammunition, and if I do manage to kill off Tretch, that would likely that could actually swing the balance in my favor. So that's going to be the goal. And there we go. We do see the triads. They do reveal themselves, and the assassin is here, so I will begin sniping him. And let's see if I can take out these triads. As for the rat ogres, we'll be sniping them out with Oxyotl, picking off as many models as I can before I have to engage. Hopefully routing off these more weakened rat ogres if I can. I do manage to take off a model. That's very good. And I do still have a spell on my coatl, so that should help me out too. But let's go ahead and chase off this unit. Time buying measures, essentially. And hopefully if I can rout off these rat ogres, I'll be good. But man, oh man, this is becoming a very long process. And I will actually run out of ammunition very soon. So that definitely will not be good for me. And you know what? I'm actually going to target the assassin instead, taking out as much HP as I can. These poison wind globadiers will likely be a fairly large threat too. And they will likely be the thing that ends me here. But I will continue scrapping it out as much as I can, poking away at the assassin Oxyotl. He is strong, but maybe not strong enough, as the assassin does manage to live using the infantry, blocking the path, rat ogres, stopping Tretch from getting sniped out. Although I do actually manage to rout off the assassin, I don't think it's going to be saving me here, especially since army losses are oh so close and the balance of power keeps dipping because I am actually using ammunition here. Alright, now I am just going to abandon these Eshin triads. It's not especially important that I continue chasing them, as that will more or less just be drawing out the game at this point. few Globadiers do shoot out towards Oxyotl, but he won't be taking too much damage from that. And instead, I'm going to be sniping out Tretch. Hopefully taking him out here. Going in for a surround. Ooh, that's a nice Globadier shot though. Taking down quite a bit of HP on my Skinks. Definitely not liking that. But unless I get a huge terror route. Oh no, it looks like it's going to be army losses instead. Oh, and that's going to be it. GG, well played. Good job to Papa Palpatine. Going for a nice Skaven build, and it looks like he did quite well there. And I think the biggest misplay here was probably the Carnosaur. The loss of that was definitely very rough. If we look at Oxyotl, he did do very well, but only just barely paid for himself in a very long game. Of course, I did not get my second Manticore summon either. It did get nerfed, and that does have an impact on things. But overall, I would say Papa Palpatine played it very well. Now, it is important to note, I did manage to shut down the Jezzails fairly well there. But actually going for a triple triad build was very interesting. And that was quite threatening to my mad dive onto the backline. But all in all, a very fun game. A good tournament run, but today is not the day we progress. GG, well played. But I don't think there was a chance. Not without ammo. So GG, that's going to be the win for Papa Palpatine. And that will be the end of the stream today. Thank you very much, guys, for coming in to watch. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already, although it's not super important, but very much appreciated by me. And I do plan to put up more videos in the future. I will be putting up some vids on some practice games I had with Alfredino and Carl Harmon. And some castings of that should be pretty fun. And it will be less cheesy than the various matches we have had throughout the week. So I think that about covers everything. And we will close out as soon as the stream catches up.